Nick Caserio serves a big old word salad. Did he provide us with any croutons? Go inside the locker room.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time.
It is the locker room, number one source for Texans digital content. Shout out to everyone who joined S&L at 4 o'clock today and on the super stream with John Harris. He went 2 hours with us. We're very grateful for that. You don't see Harris in that type of format, and we're very appreciative that he did come through. If you missed it, you can check it out on the S&L channel. A lot went on today with the Houston Texans. We've talked a lot about the draft. They had a couple of prospects actually visit. Grant and Simmons visit. Simmons, a very polarizing prospect. It just seems like it would be kind of a reach at 25. I know it's Cody Stootz's nightmare. And Grant, is it a second round possibility? I don't think this is a first round possibility, but when you have a defensive minded coach like D'Amico without the O, you never know. So the visits continue. The visits have wind down, and Nick Caserio addressed the media today. I was there. I got a couple of questions in. I asked questions that we've spoken about on this very channel. And we'll try to assess what exactly Nick Caserio had to say. We'll try to find some croutons in the word salad. Is the best way I can put it. And it was a very large salad when we talked about the largest guys on the football team, the offensive line. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that. We said we were going to ask about the evaluation. We definitely got a very large word salad from Nick Caserio on that. So let's hear from Nick Caserio. Let's hear what he had to say. Someone says Landry pulling a double. This is a triple, brother. This is a triple, brother. We went at 4, and then we went Harris, and then we went here. This is a 3-piece combo, my friend. This is a breast, thigh, and leg. This ain't no 2-piece combo. What's the perfect 2-piece combo? It's got to be breast and. Is it breast and leg, or is it just 2 breasts? Right, 2 chicken breasts. If you can get the 2 breasts, you're living pretty good. So, but yeah, this is a 3-piece combo, for sure. But let's hear from Nick Caserio. Let's try to make some sense of what the hell he had to say. This is, I think, his first media availability of the offseason. Most teams, I think, have had 2 at this point. But Nick Caserio, this was his first. So here's what he had to say. Let's try to get through that the word salad and find some croutons.
Oh, sorry. Of course. So, afternoon. Appreciate everybody being here. So, excited about the opportunity next week. It's been a fun off season. Say City of Houston. Just congratulations to University of Houston and all their success. A lot of fun to follow them. And best of luck to the Rockets. I think Ime and Raphael have done a phenomenal job. They got a really good team, so it'll be fun to watch a little playoff basketball here over the next few weeks. Hopefully into the summer potentially. But so overall, team's in a pretty good spot. Had a number of players here that have been in the off season working. Even though the off-season program doesn't start until Monday, we've had great attendance. We've had a lot of players in the building, some players at some different stages. Some of the new players that we've acquired have been around as well. So certainly making progress in that area. The official kickoff will be Monday, so expect that to be very well attended. First couple of weeks will be just focus on a weight room, and then once we transition to kind of phase 2 and phase 3 or whatever that entails these days. So we'll see. The rules are always changing, but great attitude, great spirit, a lot of energy in the building. So definitely good to see. As far as next week is concerned, good opportunity for us here. 4 picks in the top 90 or whatever it is right now. The staff has done a phenomenal job like they do every year. Can't say enough about the work and the effort and the attitude of that group. Lip, Blanco, Zeke Curtis, John Richer, Brad Matthews, Bailey, DJ Debick. I mean, there's a number of folks
the hell are these guys?
That kind of manage a lot of different things. We rely on a lot of different people. certainly not a one-man operation, not a one-man band. But they've done an incredible job, put the organization in a really good spot. I think the big thing right now is just kind of aggregating a lot of information and just kind of distilling it down into a clear picture of what we think we have with each player. So I'd say it's very fluid. Nothing's set. There's no board, quote unquote, that's set. There's no final list of players or like we're, taking X number of players or these are the 3 players we're focused on. Let's say, honestly, this time of year is a bunch of noise out there. That's a bunch of garbage. So, we're just going to go through our process and just kind of prepare and get ready to go.
He listens to it all, though. And that's the thing I've noticed about Caserio. It is a locker room. Shout out to everyone coming through. Everyone. I think a lot of the viewers had to kind of catch their breath after the John Harris thing. We went for over 2 hours. And Stutz and I have been talking since 4, but he listens to it more than he'd like to admit. He listens to it. He says it's a bunch of garbage. I don't disagree. I think it kind of gets drug out a little bit, but he's listening to it. Nick's listening to a little bit. He's at least aware of a little bit, and we'll actually hear him admit that a little later on here as we try to find some croutons in the Caserio word salad.
For next week and take advantage of our opportunities to pick whenever those might be. Right now, we're scheduled to pick at 25. Pick at 25, great. If we don't, we don't. However that goes, and just try to be judicious and try to make good decisions on behalf of the organization, which we feel like we've done a decent job of that over the last few years. So
we've done a decent job.
D'Amico and I will continue to talk about different players, talk about the team. We essentially meet every day, go through different groups of players, get his thoughts, get the thoughts of the coaching staff. Like it's a collective effort. So, because in the end, it's not one person making a decision. It's an organizational decision. Just trying to identify the right people with the right traits and characteristics come in this building and make a commitment to our football team. This program is about mental and physical toughness. It's about competitiveness, and it's about putting the team first. So the rest of it, it's not about talent. Talent's a part of it, but it's really not about talent. So, it focuses on putting together the best team possible. Got a long way to go before we play our first game. So just get the players in the building. The players that we acquire next week are going to be the furthest behind. So the only expectation is they just try to have a good day, work hard, and just try to give themselves an opportunity to compete with the rest of the team. And that's kind of how we approach it. So, but, definitely excited about the opportunity here next week. And, we'll be ready to go when we have a chance to pick. So go ahead and take some questions and kind of get rolling.
How comfortable are you guys right now at number 25, and where do you see this particular draft? Where do you see there's a drop off in talent, maybe per se?
Just in terms of what do you mean by being comfortable at 25?
Do you feel like there is uncertainty given that you're that far back, or do you all feel like you all have like a good group of guys that you all would feel good at number 25 if it came down to that?
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on right now.
Yeah.
I don't think Nick does either. Yeah, he's frozen. Nick, come on. Well, the question puts you to sleep. Come on, Nick. Let's get Nick back up. Come on. Take it away, Nick.
Given that you're that far back, or do you all feel like you all have like a good group of guys that you all would feel
how confused he is
good at number 25 if it came down to that?
Yeah, no, we're always prepared to pick. And if we pick at 25, we're going to get a good football player. So, that's what we're focused on. So, honestly, we feel good about this draft. There's players littered throughout the draft. So, we're pretty well positioned. Right now, we don't have a 4th-round pick. We got the top 4 in the top, 40, or excuse me, 4 in the top 89. Don't have a 4th, got a 5th, don't have a 6th, have 2 7s. So, we'll have an opportunity
he's ready to move
throughout the draft to add players that we think are going to create some competition on this football team. So, I'd say whoever we bring in, it's going to be hard to make this football team. So, just try to get the right players. But we feel good about the players. Our board's probably smaller than some other boards, and that's okay. But, there'll be players to pick on Thursday. There's going to be players to pick on Friday. Honestly, there's going to be players for us to pick on Saturday that we actually feel good about. So, we're going to get a good player if we pick at 25. So, and if we don't pick at 25, then wherever we pick next or whenever we do pick, we think we're going to get a pretty good player.
There you go. Okay.
When you look at what you did in free agency, do you feel like it puts you in a position where you don't have to, obviously no one wants to draft purely for need, you have it set up where you can be flexible as far as positions and BBPA?
Yeah, well, we've never drafted for need around here. I mean, we're not going to. So we're going to pick the best player that we feel fits our program, regardless.
Take that, Aaron.
I'd say other than quarterback. I mean, I'd say pretty much any position's on the table. So like it always is. So
yeah, take that, Aaron.
Try to stay true to our board. That's the reason we grade the players. So we put the players on the board. We grade them accordingly. We value them accordingly relative to what we think the role is going to be. And then we take them off the board as we see fit. So, I mean, that's not going to change.
He said need D's.
You guys made a lot of moves. Not a lot, but you guys were shuffling at the receiver position. You guys brought in Christian Kirk, Justin Watson, Braxton Berrios. How do you guys overall feel about the receiver room that you guys have? And what do you think about some of the talent in the draft that the receiver position is producing?
This is topical. I think this is interesting. Shout out to DJ Bieneme. The wide receiver thing. And I'll ask him about the slot thing that I've been pushing, but the wide receiver thing, the state of the wide receiver room. Let's hear what Caserio has to say about that, because he's going to say the same thing about drafting for need. He's going to say they feel like they can get a good player every single year. Now we're getting topical, baby. Business picking up. Get that popcorn. And let's hear Nick Caserio. Let's hear what he has to say about the receivers.
Yeah, I mean, look, we think we have a good football team right now. The goal is to try to continue to add good football players. Say there's a number of players at that position that look like they're going to have an opportunity to help their team. So there's always a lot of factors involved in that system. What's the role? How are you going to use them? I mean, it's so hard to tell. We haven't even been on the field yet. So I think you just try to evaluate the player, see some of the things that you like on tape. What are some of the things you don't like? Can you improve those areas and maybe they're deficient? How do they fit relative to the rest of your group? What are we going to ask them to do relative to what they've been asked to do? So I think that's the one benefit of whether it's the visit here, interview at the combine, you sort of get more of an intimate understanding of exactly what they were asked to do from a technique, from an assignment standpoint. You would hope that they have an understanding of their assignment and their system, and then we try to teach them some things relative to our system. How much they retain, how much they understand, where are they behind, where's the gap that we have to make up. So I would say that position in particular in the draft, I mean, it certainly looks like there's some players that are going to be able to help teams, whomever drafts
them. Caesar salad.
I haven't talked to you since all the offseason. I want to talk to you a little bit about the offensive line. What was the thought process with the changes that you guys made? And there's a lot of people in the building. But if you could talk about the approach to the offensive line, and is that someplace you guys may look for continuing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the same every year. Like every year is different. We understand there's going to be turnover on the team. We know there's certain players whose contracts are going to expire. We're going to be able to keep some. There's other players that are under contract that they might be here, they might not be here. We didn't go into the offseason and say, okay, here are the things that we're going to do. I think some of this is you always have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible and just take the information in and then just make the decisions that you feel, are best for the football team, which is what we did. So there's never well, this is what we're going to do. This is what we think is going to happen. Some of this responded to some of the information around you. And, if we didn't make any changes, if we had to go into the season with the group that we had, then we would have done that. But wasn't the case. I'd say each case was a little bit different. Each situation was a little bit different. But yeah, I wouldn't say there was anything specific that we said, well, this is what we're going to do. This is what we need to do. And then even moving forward, I mean, we feel good about the players that are in the building. Are we going to add some players that potentially think can help our football team? That's always the goal. Understanding the draft is one opportunity. It's probably the biggest volume opportunity, which is why there's such a heightened, I would say, awareness and emphasis on it. I mean, we don't put any more emphasis on a draft than we do any other phase of the team building process. So draft's no different than free agency than it is in the training camp process in terms of building the practice squad. So we try to approach it the same way. So, we lost some players or moved on from some players at a lot of different positions. We've added some players at other positions, including the offensive line. So, once the players are here, once we have an opportunity to get on the field, we'll kind of see how it all fits together.
Little Nick at night here. Word salad for your midnight snack.
Well. How much would you say y'all's draft process has changed over the years based off of the information you've learned over the years and also the, whatever turnover has been in the building? And then also, how much does changing the offense change how you guys evaluate offensive players going into this draft?
Yeah, two great questions. I'd say the core of the process, and I'd say not just specific to the draft, but you try to put some things in place that you think are going to be consistent over time, regardless of who's in the building, regardless of the system. And then if you have to make some adjustments or tweaks on the margins or on the periphery to account for some of those changes, kind of that's how we approach it. I would say we've probably tweaked the in-house draft process a little bit, the approach to that. There's some things that we've carried over what we did in New England. There's some things that we've done a little bit differently. And really the whole point of all of the exercises is to arrive at an endpoint to create as accurate a picture of the player so that you can make the best decision on behalf of the organization at that time. So I would say everybody goes about it a little bit differently.
The goal is to get the best.
How we do our visits on campus is different than other teams.
You know, I mean, you put a lot of into the process, and you know, everybody, you know, does their work. You factor in everything that went on with the player. Does the player fit? Is there some variables? And then the goal at the end of the day is to arrive and get the best player possible that fits in to what you do.
Teams do it, but we feel like we get a lot of value out of that. And we always, at the end of it, go back and say, hey, what are some of the things that everybody thought were productive? What are some areas that we feel we can improve? There's always going to be a little bit of give and take. As far as systematically, are you doing things differently in the draft process because it has to fit, whether it's offensively or defensively? Probably have to be careful about that. So you have to start with the player, what they do well, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are their deficiencies, what can we improve? How does that player fit within our system, or what do we think that's going to look like? Understanding this year offensively, all right, look, football is football. Like, offense is offense. We're not all of a sudden going to put in an offense that, you know, wasn't around, you know, that's brand new, that nobody's ever seen before. But maybe there's certain positions, hey, you know what, a little bit less of this, a little bit more of that. Okay, who are the players that maybe have some of those qualities? So that's where there's always a constant flow of information and communication back and forth, which in the end, it's helpful for everybody involved. So say whatever the offense is going to look like, it's the same thing on defense, like what do the players do well? So then we're going to put them in positions, I would say, and you can talk to D'Amico about this, or he's probably talked about it, but we've changed over the last couple of years some of the things that we've done defensively, schematically. It's maybe some changes on the margins to accentuate the things that the players do well, and there'll probably be some things that we do this year that are a little bit different that we haven't done in previous years. So 3 years, you know, same coach, same system, offense is going to be a little bit different, but by and large, that's not like some wholesale evaluation change relative to how we evaluate players and necessarily fit what we think we're going to look like offensively.
All right, there you go. So it's Nick at night here. Nick. The word salad, man. This is like Olive Garden never-ending salad right now with the word salad. Now, I asked the next question, and it was about the offensive line. I try not to give him an out. I just wanted to know if the process, and I think a lot of people have trust issues with the process, if maybe it's been tweaked a little bit, because we've heard about process and all that. So I asked him, he didn't really budge.
Going back to the offensive line and the process, you guys have had the most invested, or among the top of the league, most invested in the offensive line, and it really kind of hasn't translated on the field. Given that, outside of getting rid of players and coaches, does that process maybe require a little bit more tweaking than other processes, given what the results have been based on the investment?
Yeah, we always look at everything. So, I mean, just try to make the decisions that we feel, you know, are in the best interest of the team. It's always case by case. Each year is going to be a little bit different. So contracts are contracts. I mean, it's just part of the process. So we'll look at everything, and if there's something that we feel we can improve, we'll look at it. And if not, then, you know, we'll kind of keep moving forward. So I don't think there's anything, you know, wholesale that we feel like we got to do.
I mean, there's not anything wholesale that you feel you need to do. What? There's nothing wholesale. You've invested as much in the offensive line as most teams in the league, and you've gotten rid of 3 of your heavy investments. Like, you got rid of who was the 2-time highest paid offensive lineman of all time in Laramie Tunsil. You got rid of a first-round pick, and you got rid of a guy you gave an extension to make one of the highest-paid guards in the league. And, oh, by the way, you also got rid of the offensive line coach, and you got rid of the offensive coordinator. So nothing wholesale. That's about as wholesale as it gets. That is an overhaul. And it kind of goes back to the process. You talk about changing stuff. Simply, do you take a close look at that? Like if you cook a dinner or something like that and you suck at cooking rice, you probably take a look at the rice and say, okay, what am I doing wrong here? And I cooked rice today. It was a little bit dry. So I'm using a reference to kind of what I did. The chicken was good. The kebabs were solid. The veggies were nice, but the rice was a little dry. I'm going to take a look at the rice. They've been cooking stale, flavorless, crusty ass rice around here on the offensive line for a while. So I would think you would take a look at it, but that is pretty wholesale. He will be asked this question again a little bit later. Will the next version of this question generate a better response? Stay tuned. Let's get back to Nick at Night.
Know that much differently.
Question as well. How much does the pro day change for you all than it does from when you all are at the combine when you're evaluating these players? And how important was it to lock up players like Derek Stingley Jr. and Jalen Petrie?
Yeah, I'd say the whole pro day kind of combine process, it's a little bit different. I'd say the combine, the big thing is you got 300 or so players there, and you know the drills are the drills, right? Sometimes at a pro day they might be able to do something a little bit different from a drill, or the coach can maybe have a little bit more involvement. You can actually ask them, hey, try this technique or see how they respond to this technique. You know, if you have a group of players on a defensive line, you might have 10 defensive line coaches there. Now, we're not going to do 10 different drills, but maybe there's certain things that you're trying to look for to see how they handle, how they respond. Combine's a little bit more controlled. It's a little more fixed. I mean, everybody's kind of, but look, the combine's the combine. I'd say the biggest thing with the combine is just kind of getting the data point. Okay, here's the information. Here's their height, their weight, their speed, their jump, just so you can put it into the system. And if they don't do it to the combine, then they got to do the pro day. Then you can see it. And then say the pro day workout, everybody kind of uses them a little bit differently. I'd say, from our perspective, it's more kind of some of it's geographic. Okay, we have the opportunity to get down there to Austin, and you can kind of see grouping of players. You're not necessarily going just for one player, but in Texas case, I mean, they got 500 kids that are going to get drafted this year. So I mean, it's good to see them all kind of in one spot. So I'd say every situation is going to be a little bit different, but I'd say the pro day you might be able to focus on something a little bit more specific relative to a drill. Maybe, well, this is what it looks like on tape, and then you actually see it live, and okay, maybe it pops one way or the other. Well, you know what? Okay, that's the benefit. It doesn't necessarily all of a sudden drastically change your evaluation. It's really another data point. So when you think about how many touch points we have, I mean, you're probably talking about dozens from beginning to end with the pro day, combine, workout, being a part of that. So your second part of your question relative to the players that were able to extend. So, I mean, look, we didn't do anything. The players earned those opportunities with their play and their performance. Those are players that we think can help our football team moving forward. They certainly, embody the qualities that we want a Houston Texan to look like. So they're good football players, and I think our goal is to try to keep as many good football players around here for as long a period of time as we can. So, I mean, honestly, it's a credit to the players and the coaches for putting themselves in that position, and they'll kind of handle the behind the scenes and the finances of the finances. But, those players they've all been here. I mean, Petrie's been here, Stingley's been here. I mean, you can talk about going back to last year with Nico.
Going back to last year with Nico, and I do think that matters. The guys working out. And that was kind of where, Diggs wasn't here as soon as he got hurt. I don't know if they would have kept him anyways. God, he's in the news again. But just petty stuff, nothing serious. But I do think they value that type of guy, and we know that Petrie, Swarm, and Stingley.
So, I mean, that says a lot about their commitment to winning, their commitment to football. Prioritizing, their job and its importance. I think I got asked about this, on 610 about once you give a player a contract, like how are they going to respond? Are you worried about how they might respond relative to their approach and their attitude?
Stingley and Petrie are going to be the same.
Not necessarily. Like if you got the right people, then in the end, it's about them taking care of their personal situation and putting them in a position where they can kind of take care of themselves and maybe future generations, that's the goal. All of us want to be put in a position where we have an opportunity, to potentially make an impact and help people, and it's kind of a different way, but this is a great way for them to be able to do that. And in the end, we want them to go out there and play good football, and that's what they're focused on.
What's different in the evaluation process of a prospect that
maybe
hasn't played a position that maybe you project him for, and guys that maybe could change positions from what they did in college?
I think this is O-line motivated from Stu.
How's that different from some of the other
Go figure.
It's tricky. It's tricky because when you see a player actually do something, you have a better barometer of understanding. If you're projecting it, there's a little bit of trial and error, and you're not really sure how the player is going to respond, whether it's physically or mentally, be able to handle that type of role. So honestly, there's a little bit of risk involved. I mean, there's risk in any player. But I think when you see a player, whether it's play multiple positions, then it's a lot easier to say, you know what, we think he might be able to handle a multi-position role, whether it's offensively or defensively. It's, on the offensive line, guys, okay, they've just played tackle. Can they move inside? They just played guard. Can they put their hand on the ball and play center? And if they haven't done it, you got to sort of make an extrapolation based on the information that you have. Same thing on defense. Have a corner, never played inside the formation. Do we think he can play inside the formation? Well, yeah, here's the reason why. Safety, you've seen – the one thing about college football, you've seen multi-position players. Safety's playing nickel, corner's playing nickel. All right, well, that maybe can enhance a player's overall value and then try to project that in your system. What are you going to ask the player to do ultimately? It comes back to, right? And can they handle it? And if they can handle it, great. If they can't, all right, just put them in a position where they can just handle one specific thing. I would say, going back to, some of my experience in New England, Edelman, never played receiver, right? So you're taking an absolute flyer on a player's traits and his characteristics.
Edelman gets mentioned every draft season. You should be proud of that pick,
never
though.
caught a pass.
You should really be proud of that.
Okay, well, we think the guy's good with the ball in his hands. We're going to take a flyer on him and see how it goes. I mean, for 4 years, it didn't go very well. It was a little bit up and down. He was injured. But the one thing you saw in the first preseason game, we put him back there for punt return. He, went 90 yards of punt return. It's kind of like, all right, well, guys never returned a punt before.
Remember that.
But guy gets a ball in his hands. So you don't really know until you actually see it. So there's some risk involved, and you're going to project it. But you don't want to put the player in a position where you're not really given the best opportunity. So we could say on a piece of paper, oh, yeah, this guy can play multiple positions. Okay, can he? All right, well, we think he can. Here's the reason why. Or, we're going to focus on one position. And then once he has an opportunity to kind of play that position, then maybe we can give him some more. And because you're trying to build your overall depth and overall value of your team. I'd say, here internally, Titus is a real good example. And I wasn't here when Titus got drafted, but Titus, he was a quarterback, but he really wasn't. Then he played tackle, right? So he was a tackle, and then nobody really knew if he could play inside until he was actually put inside. And Titus is actually going in there and done a pretty good job when he's asked to play. So again, it's what's a position? What do you ask him to do? Okay. You want to be fair to the player, but it's always case by case, and not everybody can do everything. Sometimes they're better off just focusing on one position and try to get really good at that position because that's their best opportunity to help the team. So,
Nick. Front five says, am I the only one who thinks Olive Garden? No, you're not. It's the best salad. If you put that at a fancy ass Italian restaurant, some of these people who just go to the most expensive, they would be raving about, oh, this is the best salad ever. No, you're not. Olive Garden salad goes in. I think this is going to be a small school question from Cole Thompson.
When it comes to offensive and defensive linemen, when the talent level is completely different than what you see at the Power 5 level, is it more challenging to project their ceiling and what they can be, especially when you only get a small sample size, say at a Senior Bowl or an NFLPA Bowl, where you can see
a lot of these questions could be asked every draft.
I think the nature of the draft in the end, there's a projection element, regardless of how much a player has or has not played. When you're playing at a lower level, quote unquote, a lower level, there's obviously going to be an adjustment period that takes place. So is there an opportunity to evaluate that, like you said, in the Senior Bowl or East-West or something like that? I mean, I'd say those two games done a pretty good job of maybe bringing in some lower level, smaller school players. But it's a huge jump. There's no question about it. So how are they going to handle it? I'd say, going back to, Duggar, there's another example in New England, basically small school.
God, he's in New England mode, isn't he?
Against the 20 of us in this room, basically nobody. And then, went to the Senior Bowl, and I'm including myself in that equation. and then, went to the Senior Bowl and did okay. So is there some evidence along the way? But so you have to, again, it's, all right, here's the player. Here's what we think he does well. You might have to not downgrade it based on a level of competition, but there's a little bit of difference, what the guy does against LSU versus what he does against, Western Tennessee State or somebody like that, if that's who they're playing every week. So you're not going to eliminate a player, but, give him an opportunity. But, not every player can make that jump. So, I mean, it's case by case like a lot of this is, but there's a projection element that's involved. No question about it.
Nick, as you normally do when you open up these press conferences, you mentioned some of the guys that are in your group, Lip, Zeke, and Brad. You guys have been together the last couple of years doing this. Last 3 drafts, you drafted 6 offensive linemen, 3 in the first 2 rounds.
This is the same question I asked.
There needs to be a reevaluation of how you evaluate that specific position.
I mean, we look at everything on a constant basis. So, again, it's case by case. I mean, a lot of faith and confidence. I mean, I'd say the entire building, starting with D'Amico and the coaching staff, have a lot of confidence in that group. So, again, look at everything, and we'll try to make decisions that, we think make sense for your organization. They're not all going to work. I mean, I've said this before. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said it, but it's a lot. You can ask Omar. I mean, the draft's 50-50. I mean, that's what it is. So some are going to work, some aren't going to work. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So we're no different than any other team. So if there's something that we can improve and tweak and adjust, we'll look at it. So it's never one particular thing and never one factor, but we're always open.
We're always open to, trying to make the football team better, and, we'll figure it out. Let's go, Nick. Quit pausing, man. Come on.
He's talented and deep. Is that your assessment just of the group, and is running back something that basically...
Running back question. Thank you, Aaron.
Some players
running back question.
You always want to, look ahead and see if there's something that could bolster the position potentially.
Yeah. I mean, similar to the receiver question. I mean, there's a good group of backs. So, I mean, this goes back to the same thing. We'll stack the board. We'll look at what our options are, look at supply and demand. What are you passing up in lieu of something else? So that's a pretty good room. We feel like we got, pretty good cohort of players in that group. I mean, Mixon, I think he went to the Pro Bowl last year, so he's a great football player. I mean, he was one of the top kickoff returners, and when he's played offensively, he's done a pretty good job with his opportunities. Say Dare's got his role is kind of specific to the kicking game. So if there's an opportunity for us to add a player that we think can help our team, we'll look at it.
So he said we have a good running back room. And then he said he didn't. We found a crouton. So he says we have a good running back room. And then he says Davian Pierce is a good kick returner and Dare Ogunbowale has value in the kick game. They know they need running backs. It's music to my ears right there.
We don't, then
sing to me, Nick.
Group. And again,
sing to me.
Everybody's focused on a draft, but there's other opportunities to add players to your team, which, I mean, we've done that. I would say let's go back to 2023. Like 4 of the starters on the offensive line the first 4 weeks, weren't here until August. So, that was we were forced to do that because of injuries and some other things. And
it was better than when everyone was there.
Again, there's not one way to add players to the team. We're always going to look at multiple avenues and try to take advantage of the opportunities and make good decisions, which we've, hopefully shown the ability to do on a yearly basis.
Hey, Nick, kind of like what Wes asked you, but about different positions. You guys have had really good success drafting middle rounds, getting guys like receivers, some defensive skill players. Is there something about your group or the way you guys approach the draft, and I realize the draft is, as you said, 50-50, that makes you kind of keen or able to spot guys that come lower in those positions that will make it in the league? Or are you just lucky?
Well, there's no magic formula. I would say we just try to stay committed and disciplined to our approach and just continue to have fluid conversations and try to know the players as intimately as possible, top to bottom. So, I mean, we spend as much time kind of on the middle to the, I would say, bottom to even the free agent group as we do at the top of the draft. So there's 250 whatever opportunities to add players to your team in a draft, right? There's however many slots there are, right? there's going to be players that come from all over the place, right? You're going to have guys in the first round that end up being really good players. You're going to have guys in the first round that end up being not good players. You're going to have guys in the fifth round who end up being good players. You're going to have guys in the seventh round. Look, some of this is circumstance. Some of this is the situation that they're going into. But if you just try to know the player, understand their skill set, understand kind of what motivates them, understand what makes them tick, understand what works in this building, and just put them in the right spot from a value standpoint and just stay true to your board. I mean, that's what we try to do. And I'd say, going back to an earlier question, I would say we've had a lot of continuity, which along that group, which I would say is definitely a strength. So there's been some things that I've been able to kind of take off my plate because there's a lot of faith and confidence in other folks. And
I wonder what he's taking off his plate. That's interesting. I wonder what has been taken off of Caserio's plate
in that group. So to be able to do that when you work with someone on a regular basis, you know, it makes it, I'd say, the process a lot smoother and a lot easier, which goes back to trust and faith and confidence. So, you know, look, every decision we make is not going to be perfect. You know, I've made more mistakes than anybody. I'll be the first to admit it. But, you know, we try to just make more good decisions than bad decisions and just try to, you know, do the best we can. And in the end, try to make good decisions for the organization, which is the most important thing.
I know you and Nick Caserio, y'all have experience.
All right, so this is me bringing up the two-slot theory that we brought up multiple times. Nick Caserio, with his experience with multiple slots in New England, Caserio has the same experience. Now, I want y'all to notice a couple of things here. First of all, I think this is a good answer. It kind of took my imagination a number of ways, so we'll get to that. Then I want you to look. So this is where he's looking. This is where I'm sitting. Kind of feel like when he dropped the F-bomb and he talked about guys talking about him, and I'm sitting right next to Stutz. Look at the direction he's looking because this is going to come in valuable. We're going to hear Big Sarge's voice a little bit little. Look where Nick Caserio's looking. Keep an eye on that. But let's get to the answer and just remember where he is there before he drops this F-bomb, assuming that they kept it on the FTP.
With guys with similar skill sets that play the same position, having success at the same time, Amendola and Edelman, and then Puka and Cup. You brought in Kirk, who works a lot in the slot. Is it safe to say that someone who primarily worked in the slot in college, like you're not going to shy away from him just because he did majority of his work in the slot like Christian?
Yeah, good question, Landry. I would say, honestly, when you look at kind of formationing and some of the things that you're able to do from an alignment standpoint, I mean, guys essentially line up all over the place. So even if they're quote-unquote inside the formation players, I mean, everybody's an inside the formation player. When you reduce a split, you know, when you have tight receivers tight their formation, all right, you know, line up players outside the formation. I would say going back to Kirk, you know, at A&M, like he played inside the formation. But I would say when you look at his career, I mean, he's pretty much played all over the formation. I mean, let's go back to Arizona. I mean, you know, this guy played all over the place. So you need players that maybe have some degree of flexibility. So if a guy can play inside the formation, outside the formation, all right, you know, not everybody can do that, but some can. You can do some things formationally to kind of help the players. There's some players that are better served on the perimeter. Try to keep him on a perimeter. If he's an inside-only player, okay, well, then he's an inside-only player. Like Amendola, I would say, was an inside-only player. I would say Edelman wasn't an inside-only player. Like Edelman was able to be a multi-purpose player. Plenty of snaps to him on a perimeter. So it goes back to the same thing. What does a player do well? How do you deploy him? What can you do formationally to help him? What can you do to give him free access? What can you do to help him against a matchup one-on-one, whatever it is? So, I mean, we'll look at everything. But, again, you need three or four receivers that are going to be able to do multiple things. Unless they do something really, really well, you want to just put them over there and say, okay, like leave him on his own, and then we can handle the rest of the formation with these other guys over here. So, I mean, Gronkowski was a quote-unquote tight end. But, I mean, there's plenty of times that he was singled on the perimeter formation. I mean, Rob's going to the Hall of Fame, so we're talking about one of the best tight ends ever. But
made that clear.
You know, so
didn't do the O'Brien.
A lot of it is you can kind of manipulate the defense however you need to based on the personnel that you have.
So I think there's a couple of things there with Caserio. The way he addressed that. Number one, they don't consider Kirk only a slot guy. So he gave us that nugget. They don't consider him only a slot guy. So that's interesting. The other thing is, you notice that he kind of brought tight end up and tight ends lining up wide. We've seen them visit with two tight ends who can line up wide. in Arroyo and Gunnar Helm. So I wonder if that's kind of another way that they kind of look at it. But I think the 2-slot theory is alive and well. They don't look at Christian Kirk as just a slot guy, and I don't think they're going to shy away from those guys. So when you talk about the Egbukas, the Knowles, some of the guys that primarily worked in the slot, I don't think it's going to stop them. So through all the word salad that we've heard from Nick Caserio, I think that's kind of an interesting nugget. That's a crouton. So we have found a crouton inside the Nick Caserio word salad in the 2-slot theory about Nick Caley being open to the slots and maybe multiple tight ends. I think we got a little bit something there from Nick Caserio. So there you go. There's croutons in every solid salad. Caserio word salad, pretty bulky, lot going on there, but we did find the crouton. So the slot theory addressed by Nick Caserio, and I thought that was a really useful piece of information from him. Let's go back to Nick Caserio.
A real quick one after that. Just generally speaking, your philosophy on like drafting a guy that maybe has a really high ceiling but a low floor, or do you try to steer towards higher floors? Like just generally, how do you do that boomer bust?
Yeah, I mean, look, even if you think that, you're not really sure. Like you might, this guy has a high ceiling. Okay, well, what does that even mean? Or hey, this guy's got a low floor. All right, well, then it maybe goes the other way. So look at the player, understand his makeup, look at his skills. Where's the bogey that, okay, they have some room in these areas. I mean, look, they all got to get stronger. So it's not, well, yeah, this guy's, needs to put on strength. Well, they all do, right? I mean, they get in the offseason program, and that's how you can get stronger. So I think you got to be careful. I mean, the best thing that you can do is play football. And if the more we can evaluate that player play football, I mean, we haven't talked about this, but, it's like, well, you got a few more players a little bit older, 24, 25 years old. I mean, honestly, that actually helps them because they have more experience. They've played more football. Okay, if they reach their quote-unquote ceiling, whatever that is, I mean, I don't know. There's still room for improvement. I mean, I've seen plenty of examples of players who were in the league 6, 7 years who still improved, 7, 8, years in. So there's always opportunity. So I think you have to be careful just about, that notion because
you almost did a Kunkel
really
voice.
Come to fruition the way that you think it's going to.
You almost did a Kunkel voice. It's a boomer bust.
Yeah, I mean, making progress. I mean, honestly, those guys are dating. Nick, trying to put any timetables on it because, I mean, none of us are doctors. So, I mean, I'm certainly not smart enough to be a doctor. So
you might be.
They're ready.
You might be.
And, once they give us the information, then, we'll adjust accordingly. But he's had a good attitude. He's been in here. I mean, honestly, probably seen him every day.
Probably seen him every day. I think Nick Caserio is smart enough to be a doctor. Nick and Knight here. Nick. I definitely think he is. Very much. I bet he'd be a damn good doctor, to be honest with you. Gets up early, ready to go, smart. You know, he got good grades in science class. Now, I think they might have dropped the
F-bomb. And then just get him a lot of guys. Honestly, those guys are day-to-day. Try not to put any timetables on it because, I mean, none of us
he asked about Tank, yeah.
I'm certainly not smart enough to be a doctor. So when they're ready, they're ready. And, once they give us the information, then, we'll adjust accordingly. But he's had a good attitude. He's been in here. I mean, honestly, probably seen him every day. So he's in good spirits. He's working hard. So take it one day at a time. And, when he's ready, he's ready.
We'll close with Sarge, Sam, and DJ. You talked about earlier about...
Man, did they cut off the F-bomb? We'll get to the F-bomb in a sec. Remember what way he was looking. I can't believe they did that.
This offseason about bringing guys in to be able to compete and kind of make the team better through competition. How do you kind of go about identifying guys in the draft that can kind of catch up quickly?
How do you identify guys who can get your system quickly? That's another one that we will hear. We could hear next year. We could hear the year after.
On top of each other, try to establish some level of consistent performance, and then in the end, it comes down to how well does the team execute on Sundays. So we're going to execute well enough, or we're not. So I mean, that's what I mean. I think they showed a stat at the league meetings. I mean, 70% of the games were one score in the fourth quarter in the league this year. So what does that tell you? It tells you the margins are so small. So what can you do to give yourself an opportunity to put yourself in a position? Because in the end, it's going to come down to probably a possession in the fourth quarter. Who's able to execute? The teams that execute are the ones that are going to be able to win in advance, and the teams that don't are not. So that's kind of how we're, approaching it. But, if there's something we can do with the process.
He's running out of steam. Nick. All right, there you go. I think this is really it. They took out the best part. The only reason I was hanging around, we'll pull this up. Kunkel actually had it. So he was useful today outside of that boomer bust question. Kunkel did bring something to the table today. Here was Caserio, and he's looking. He looks at me when he says it. I think it's pretty clear. Here was Caserio. He was being asked by Big Sarge about past mistakes that he previously mentioned. He looks to his right. He looks to his right, and I don't think he was. I don't think he was incorrect in the notion. Nick at night continuing. Nick.
Nick, you said you've made some mistakes in the past. I'm not going to ask you about those mistakes. I'm just going to ask you.
Oh, you guys fucking talk about them all the time. So. Did I just blow up?
Yeah, looking over there. There you go. He knows what's up. So yeah, that's why. So that's why the live stream is skipping a little bit. They edited out the F-bomb. It's okay, Texans. We can get a little F-bomb in there. Little beep or something never hurt anyone. So that's why it was skipping a little bit. Little Nick at night. Nick. Biggest relevant takeaways. And again, it's my pet peeve. It's me being the kind of the jackass like media guy. Admittedly so. But the relevant stuff, the wide receiver room, I think it's interesting how he answered that. Really wouldn't budge on the offensive line. And then a nugget here or there. I think talking about he didn't consider anything like wholesale on the O-line. A little bit interesting, but there was a little bit of stuff there. The running back room I thought was very telling. What Caserio said, I think it's safe to say they're drafting a running back. There's not a type of receiver that they're looking to. And they obviously value character. But other than that, a lot of that stuff you can hear anytime, any draft. Boomer bust, draft him for need. Evaluating small school guys. Like that's every year. Unless there's like a specific guy that you're thinking of, which could be the case. So there we go. OO asks if I was sipping. OO is asking if I'm sipping. I'm not. I'm drinking water, and I drank some coffee because I've streamed today for I think 6 hours. I am on that. You already know
high grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But that was like 3 hours and 28 minutes ago, before the Harris stream. So I'll probably have to go double down on that after this long day. Get on that. So not sipping. But you need to be sipping on the third day of the draft. Get your ass out there to Carbach Beer Garden, 11 a.m. and be here on the super stream. Someone asked if we're streaming during the draft. The answer is yes. It's going to be on the S&L channel, S&L, with myself and Cody Stutes. Most of you already know that. If you don't, be sure to hop over there. Be sure to like this video. Jerome says that's not the new drop. That's going to get old fast. I mean, it's a Nick Caserio drop. It's not really, it's not going to be like a whole time type of thing, but yeah, it's definitely a new drop. I don't know what the new drop means. What does that mean? Is it going to be played all the time? Don't know. Kind of like it. Kind of like the vibe of it. Your shoes suck, Jerome. But yeah, shout out to Kurt. Going to be watching from Nashville. A couple other stuff that I starred. E. Garcia says, what are the ingredients in a Caserio salad? And he ain't eating ranch. He might not even eat dressing on his salad. There's definitely probably some protein, probably like some bland ass chicken. There's probably like some kale, maybe some peppers. like some walnuts or something like that. Like whatever is like the most like Whole Foods vibe type of thing would be the ingredients in Caserio. He's a psycho eater. Nick asks when I'm adding a sub button, do you mean like memberships like Stoots did? What do you mean by the sub button? Not sure what that means. Memberships I'm going to do in season, and I think we're going to do a highlight reaction and pregame shows. Highlight reaction pregame shows is what we'll do for that when we do membership. Stoots has already started it. We'll start it on S&L, but I don't want to do it just to do it. So I want it to be the right time. I want it to be the season. So we'll look at that, like special streams of highlights and stuff like that, like during the week. Jolie 713, Landry, what do you think of the Rockets? Do they have a chance? They have a chance, but they're big underdogs. They're like big time underdogs against the Warriors, like massive. And I think a lot of the money is going to be on them. It's almost to the point where it's almost good value to bet on the Rockets. But I mean, I think they got a shot, but good God, I do think Jalen Green's his toughness is really going to be challenged. His critics, including myself, that kind of question how he will play when the other team is 100% trying to win, what that'll look like. The toughness is going to be challenged from Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green. I think it's a good challenge for him. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, memberships in season. We'll do them on SNL soon, but yeah, that's what that is. Trey of Texas says, I bet Nick eats his foods all separated, like just grabbing a bell pepper and chomping like an apple. I kind of like those small peppers, though. I'm not a big fan. I'm not opposed to that. Yeah, I like the Nick drop too. Jerome kicks don't know, man. Look at those shoes, dude. Those are dustier than those shoes have been stepped on more than damn rug at a large high school. I mean, you call yourself Jerome Kicks bringing kicks like that? Like, come on, brother. Those ain't nice kicks, bro. I'm just kidding. I don't know what kind of kicks Jerome's wearing. I just know Jerome's a little bit of a hater. But it's been a long day. There were the 2 visits. We'll see what happens in that direction. They've kind of wrapped up the visits now. I'm still skill position guy. John Harris. He has established himself. If you missed that super stream on SNL, he's established himself as offensive line guy. I'm just not into it. I'm just not into this offensive line thing. I think they need skill guys. I get that there's some intriguing names. I get that they probably love Booker, but based on the actual prospects, I like the skill guys a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. My grandmama gave me them kicks. Lord. But yeah, that's a little Nick action right there. Nick at night. Nick here in the locker room. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Appreciate everyone who watched all 3 streams. Be a part of the super stream and be a part of the party. Everyone from Jerome on down, come out to Carbach 11 a.m. on Saturday. We'll be out there celebrating after the super streams on Thursday and Friday, the beer garden, pizza and pints, if you will. And they got all the best beer in Texas and stuff. So it's kind of a staple. So we appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, right along, like the video. And always remember, no matter what kind of salad Nick Caserio is spewing when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for coming through. A week away from the draft. Now, bye.
Can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.